Okay, this is Scarecrow by John Mellencamp. And I'm going to have to turn it off because if I give you too much of a clip of the record, then they're going to call me for um, censorship because you're not allowed to play copyrighted music on YouTube for any great length of time. So what do I want to talk about? Okay, this t-shirt is my taxi t-shirt, and it refers to the transdimensional taxi driver. I'm not a regular kind of taxi driver. What is a transdimensional taxi driver? That is a person who drives you someplace that you didn't even know exists. Another dimension. It sounds like something from the Twilight Zone, doesn't it? And that's exactly what we're going to do. We have to let go of our Wikipedia, which defines everything, and we have to let go of our... no, not totally. I mean, you're going to remember everything that you've learned in your previous dimension. What else? Oh, why do we want to go to a new dimension? We want to go to a new dimension because the old dimension doesn't have enough consciousness for us. Okay, so what does it mean to go to a new dimension with more consciousness? Okay, this is supposed to be a, I don't know, let's call him Sitting Bull. Some wise Aboriginal man who looked at the Europeans and found them wanting. They wanted all the land and they wanted everything their way, so they were very wanting. What else did he find? The European life was really wanting for something that Sitting Bull stood for. Someone says it's a clash of cultures. Someone else says Sitting Bull's people were steamrollered. What did we lose when we lost Sitting Bull? Yes, what did we lose? It's easy to say, well, we should go back to the days when Sitting Bull and his people and their ways were the ways of North America. It's easy to say. It's definitely not an easy do. What can we take from Sitting Bull's ways and from the European ways? Can we amalgamate them? Or do we just transcend them? What does transcend mean? It means you lift yourself above those reality boxes. What's a reality box? A reality box is the frame of reference that you're using when you're looking at what the hell have we got here? It's basically a map. It's a way of looking at things. It's a school of thought. Okay, let's go. All right. The other side of this is a diesel. Okay, diesel is a fashion brand, But, it says diesel only. So what does that mean? Well, if it's not talking about diesel as being a fashion brand, diesel only is a vehicle that's powered by a diesel engine. And diesel only means don't put gasoline in the fuel tank of a diesel engine. It seems like common sense. Don't put gasoline into the fuel tank of a vehicle that runs on diesel. Okay, so that's a long pause. And I think for some people, a really long pause, well, a short pause, okay, he's just taking a breather. He's going to have some water. The speaker's going to have some water. He's got clear his throat. Maybe he's going to glance at his notes. But a really long pause is the speaker has forgotten himself. He's lost his place, and this is going to turn into a shit show. I just know it. I just know it. This guy, he's right out of wherever he learned what he's going to talk about, and he doesn't really know his subject matter very well, and he's taking a long pause because he's forgotten what he wants to talk about, which means he's incompetent, and I should turn off the video right now and never go see this speaker live. So that's the point, isn't it? That I don't know what I'm talking about. And someone says, well, you're not worthy to speak on the subject. Okay, so it's taxi. In other words, you flag down the taxi because you need to go from there to your new destination. You tell the taxi driver where you want to go. A transdimensional taxi driver, well, he's not quite the same as a city taxi driver because you pretty much don't know where the next dimension is. So you're getting in the transdimensional taxi because the transdimensional taxi and its driver know the way. So if you flew to Jamaica and you landed in Montego Bay, and you knew that your destination was a resort in Negril, you'd tell the cabbie, I need to go to such and such resort. Maybe it's Sandals near Negril. That's where my destination is. You don't know where Negril is in relationship to Montego Bay. So you trust the taxi driver to take you from Montego Bay to Sandals. It's the same thing with your transdimensional taxi driver. For some reason, you had it in your head. Maybe the cab was parked under a sign that said, this cab takes you to another dimension, Twilight Zone. But anyway, you got in the back seat of the cab and you said, let's go, let's go, let's go. And he pulled away from the curb and he started off in a new direction, the cab driver. And you're watching out the windows at the sights. And you might ask the cab driver, well, about how long is it going to take to get there? And he's going to give you an answer. It's your dime that's paying the cab. So if you are paying for the cab to take you somewhere, are you going to pay in dimes or dollar bills or Jamaican currency? Are you going to pay in credit card? Are you going to pay? Well, I just came from San Francisco and I've got some souvenirs from San Francisco. Why don't I give you a nice t-shirt that I got in San Francisco in exchange for the ride? You are never going to really understand why we're talking about payment and transdimensional taxi driver. It's because you are conditioned to believe that if you take a taxi, at the end of the taxi driver, you have to settle up with the taxi driver. Because in the old dimension where you came from, that's the way things are done. You don't take a taxi ride without paying for it. In the new dimension where the transdimensional taxi driver is going to take you, you discover that everything is upside down. So when the taxi driver arrives at Sandals, the resort, he looks at you and he pulls out his wallet and he gives you 50 ralods. And you look at him funny and you say, and he just, gives you the 50 ralod bill and he says, see ya. So you get out of the car and you grab your luggage and you're looking at a 50 ralod bill. A 50 ralod bill. The cab driver paid you. In the old world, you paid the taxi driver in dollars. Now he is giving you money, and the money is dollars spelled backwards, ralods. So this is the way that things work in the new dimension. Some things are really different from your old dimension, and you're having a bit of what's known as culture shock. Because clearly you don't understand this new culture and this new dimension. And someone says it's a bit, yes, it's a bit of an adventure, but it means that you can't rely on your pre-existing knowledge from the old dimension, because it seems like things don't work the same way here. So maybe you're going to be walking on eggshells for a while because you're kind of like, you know, I'm the same person and I've lived for 39 years in the old dimension, and this new dimension, I'm very puzzled and I'm worried that someone's going to get really angry at me because I'm going to do something wrong based upon things that I learned in the old dimension. Maybe I shouldn't have come to this new dimension, but I'm here and I'm going to have to, someone says figure it out, I'm going to have to be here for a little while. It's your birthright as a person to get into a transdimensional taxi and move to the next dimension. Someone says, birthright or no, I don't want to go to this new dimension. It took me 39 years to figure out the old way. You pay the cab driver $50 when he's dropped you at the curb of your destination. If I've got to go and relearn everything, I'm 39. I don't want to spend another 39 years redoing everything. Well, actually, on planet Earth, we know that tourists frequently go from one country to another, and different countries, we know, have different cultures. So even if you're 39 and you're from the United States, it doesn't stop you from going to Jamaica or China or Malaysia or the Belgian Congo. And you kind of expect that when you go to some of these countries that perhaps you might have trouble using English. You're not necessarily going to be able to use the US dollars. You might need a visa for your passport. And before you go, when you get there, you might need certain mandatory vaccinations. When you get there, they might not use Western toilets. The food might be really weird. It might be insect-based. But people do be tourists and go to foreign lands. So it's not really that unusual to go to a new place. And in this case, I am the transdimensional taxi driver, and I'm taking you to a new dimension. It's not a new country and a new culture. It is a different, I don't even have a word for it. I mean, we call it a different dimension, but that doesn't really educate you on what the difference is between this new place and the old place. We really don't have a good way to explain it to you based upon your personal history. Someone says, well, I'm going to have to take a leap of faith. No, you just don't have a framework to understand the new dimension. Is there somebody there who's going to be my mother in the new dimension? Someone who's going to make sure I'm looked after because I don't understand anything about this new dimension. I sure hope there's going to be someone there, like a mother, because I'm going to be essentially born into a new dimension, and I'm going to be a little tiny baby, and I'm not going to be able to look after myself in the new dimension. I'm really going to need something to look after me. Okay, that is your talk. Why are we talking about going to a new dimension? It's because that is the nature of evolving yourself. Fear and trepidation. I'm hearing someone, they're stamping their feet and they're starting to whistle and they're looking every which way. I'm not liking the feel of this. Sure, I like to have people look at me and saying, that person keeps learning as a lifelong learner. I like people to think that's the kind of person I am. But I'm really feeling fear and trepidation because I don't have a tourist guide. I don't have a little booklet. I don't have a little video on YouTube I can watch about this new dimension that I'm going to. And why have I got... It's mostly just because it's fear of the unknown. Where's that cabbie? I want to go back to my old dimension. I got here and I got a bad feeling. I got a bad feeling. I got a bad feeling. I'm hyperventilating. This is not good. This is not. Get me the hell out of here. Okay, so this is a normal reaction for really unusual new circumstances. Slipping into fear and feeling like, I got to get out of here. This is not a good idea. So, you are and that is the way it's going to stay. Essentially, you exist. You existed in the old way of doing things, and you're going to exist in the new way of doing things. You are in search of the feeling of, someone says comfort. Yes, you want comfort. You want reassurance. You really need reassurance at this point that it's very normal to feel like you're out of place in this new dimension. It's really normal. It's very rare for someone to come here and not feel discombobulated. So you're okay. You're normal. This is normal. The new normal is to fear this new dimension. Fear is a normal thing that happens to people when they get here. So you're okay. You're actually doing perfect. This is normal. People feel fear when they get to the new dimension. Just so you know, looking at the history books, pretty much everyone that gets here feels fear. And most of them go right away, I want to go back to my old dimension. Please take me back right away. So you're doing okay. This is perfectly normal, just so you know. But the whole point of getting here is so you can explore this new dimension. And yes, we're going to have guides here to help you. So fear not, everything is fine. And we just want you to remember that you are still in existence, and that's the main thing, isn't it? That you still exist. Okay, so what is the new dimension that we're going to? We're going to nowhere at all. We're doing a little trip in your mind. So you never left your old dimension. You just had a mind experiment of what it's like to go to a new dimension. What's the point of it? The point of it is always get ready. I just saw in the news that basketball player Kobe Bryant, multimillionaire, celebrity, dropped dead at the age of 41. No one expected Kobe Bryant to drop dead at the age of 41. And so, you might plan on living to a ripe old age, but you cannot say for certain that's going to happen. So, the transition that happens for you when you drop dead is pretty much inevitable, and you cannot say whether it's going to happen 10 minutes from now, 10 years from now. You cannot say. So, you better be prepared to go to a new dimension at any time. And you don't know what happens when your body drops dead. But once it drops dead, there's no going back, folks. It's never really easy to talk about dying. It's pretty much speculation as to what happens when you die. There's lots of stories, but there's no one who can really give you 100% assurance this is how it's going to be when you drop dead. Is it another dimension? Yes. Are you going to have a taxi driver to take you there? I don't know. But it's going to be a transition from living the way you're living today to living some new way. Maybe the afterlife is a duplicate of this one. You're going to get up out of your old body. You're going to see it lying dead there. You're going to get up out of it, and you're going to look the same, but you're more like a ghost. Or what? We don't know. We don't know. Millions of stories, millions of possibilities, even people that have died on the operating table and come back, and told stories about, well, nothing happened, or, I saw Jesus, or, I saw lights, or I saw my ancestors. You can't go off of these stories because they're not all the same. So, what's the point? Again and again and again, what's the point? Don't get too used to things staying the same. Because somewhere along the line, you're going to drop dead and everything is going to change. So you already know that things are not going to stay the same for you. So while you're still in this world, don't make the same assumption either, that things are always going to be the same in this earthly reality. You are hard to figure out, Mr. Transdimensional Taxi Driver. You're very hard to figure out because I don't understand why you're doing this video. You are hard to figure out, Mr. Taxi Customer, because you clicked on the play button and maybe a few times you felt like turning off the video, or you did, and then you came back to it. I'm still pausing, and you're wondering, why are you pausing again? While we are here, some people are satisfied with it just going along the way it is. Other people want to get out in front of the whole shebang and make major changes. If you're going to be someone who is sitting back and hoping nothing changes in our earthly reality, you're pretty much, someone says lazy. No, not necessarily. You're just, it's been like this more or less. So I might as well assume it's going to stay more or less the same. But if you're someone who really wants change because you don't like certain facets of the earthly reality, how are you going to make change? You, one human out of over 7 billion, it's your call. How I'm going to make change in this earthly reality is, someone says, out of my hands. Well, it is. It is. Because I've already changed dimensions. I've already changed dimensions. And that's why I'm the transdimensional taxi driver. What's 5D? Well, it's sort of the shorthand notation for the fifth dimension, which is the new dimension that we're proposing for planet Earth. The old version of planet Earth is known as 3D Earth. The new version of planet Earth, it's not Earth 2.0, it's called the fifth dimension. And the reason I say I'm already in the fifth dimension, even though, if you were to see me driving my cab, I'm still driving around in an Earth city. But my consciousness is different than a 3D person. And that's the main difference. What do you mean your consciousness is different than a 3D person? I used to be a 3D person, so I know how 3D people operate. You're not helping me with that. Yeah, I know. It's if you have done some research on 5D, the fifth dimension, then you're going to be okay. But if this is totally new for you, or you've heard the word the fifth dimension and you think you know what it means, but you never really did any searching on the internet, you never picked up a book on it, you never really talked to anybody who says that they're in the fifth dimension, you're really running around with a blindfold on when it comes to this idea of the fifth dimension. If you are already figuring out this new dimension, the fifth dimension, is really Earth all over again, yes and no. It's your call. In other words, whether or not you choose to live as a 3D person or a 5D person is up to you. If you want to stay in 3D Earth, then you don't have to do anything. Nothing. Nothing at all. So in other words, yes, 3D Earth will continue. But if you are ready for a shift in consciousness, well, what's the advantage of 5D over 3D? It's not really easy to tell you. Is it always going to be 3D people living with 5D people? Maybe. What do you mean? Maybe that's the case. Or maybe the 5D people are just going to go their own way and you won't see them anymore. How do we know? We don't know. At this juncture, we don't know what's going to happen. But right now, there are some 5D people and a whole lot of 3D people. Some people have shifted, and I'm going to say the vast majority haven't. Well, how do I choose? You're going to have to insist on evolving yourself or bust. When you were at school, were you at the top of the class or did you flunk? Some people went to high school and they dropped out because they didn't like what they were being taught. They didn't like the system. They didn't like everything about school. They dropped out and maybe they became a bum or maybe they became Bill Gates of Microsoft. Your intention is basically what you're going to go on. I am intending to have some new stuff happen to me in my life. Or my intention is for everything to stay the same as much as I can possibly keep it the same. I want it to stay the same until the time when I drop dead. It's your intention that really sets it. If your intention is for it to stay the same, well, use 3D ways to live the way that your pictured ideal is, and perhaps it will stay. The more you have effort to keeping things to stay the same, the more they're going to stay the same. There's no guarantee. Everyone knows on planet Earth there's no guarantees. You don't know if there's going to be a massive economic meltdown, or there's going to be an alien invasion, or there's going to be global warming is going to cause the oceans to rise and flood New York City. You don't really know. But, you can look at all the risks that have been talked about and minimize your risks. And that's very 3D, and, you're welcome to choose that. But if you are an adventurous kind of person at heart, then you might say, hell, I know I could do the 3D thing and, move to some place that's got a higher elevation so the oceans aren't going to take me out, and, maybe some place that's not susceptible to tornadoes or hurricanes or earthquakes. Some place that's not in a war zone. Some people are going to say, that's good, let's follow that advice, let's go to that place and, hang out our shingle, and we're going to cut hair until we can't cut hair anymore and drop dead. That's 3D. But if you say, hell, I'm an adventurous person, and I'm pretty much already know, how to protect myself in 3D Earth. And despite knowing I can do that, I do know sooner or later I'm going to drop dead. Everything is going to change anyways. So I'm a 5D person in waiting. I'm going to try this 5D thing. Maybe it's just some other shoe salesman trying to sell me a lady's shoe that doesn't fit me because I'm a man and the shoe's too small. But, I'm looking for something interesting to do this afternoon, so I'm going to check out this 5D thing. And, okay, Mr. Taxi Driver, take me to 5D. Well, you have to choose. It's your dime. Are you going to stay 3D, or are you going to try to be a 5D person? Or just, stick your toe in the water and, do something, massive action. Either massive action in 3D or massive action to get me to 5D. Because if I just stick my toe in the water of 5D, then the rest of my body's still in 3D. So I really didn't have a 5D experience. This is the end of this talk. At the end of this talk, it's up to you to decide if you're going to stay in 3D or you're going to pursue 5D living. Stay tuned to our channel, because there will be more talks on 5D, and there'll be more talks about 3D.